Reading from Wise Words by Peter Lythard. The story is Robin and the Master's Wife. Once upon a time there was a young man named Robin who served a great prince. The prince lived in a mansion with many rooms and passageways and owned much land. Robin had charge of all his master's gardens and lands. Day after day he rode from one end of the estate to the other, making sure that everyone and everything was working. When a mule died, the master sent Robin to market with a bag of silver to buy another. And Robin returned with most of the silver, as well as a fine new mule. At the beginning of each month, the prince sent Robin to collect rent from the peasants who worked in the fields. If some of the rent was missing, Robin would have to pay the difference himself, but none was ever missing. On the master's estate, no servant was given more responsibility, nor was any servant more faithful than Robin. No one, that is, save the prince's very old chief steward. Soon after his 90th birthday, the chief steward died, and the prince had to choose someone to take his place. He called Robin to his chamber, along with another servant whose name was Joseph. "My chief steward, who served me faithfully for many years, is dead," the master began. "Now I must choose another chief steward in his place. I want a chief steward who will free me from every care for my house and my estates, so I can spend my time in reading and study and hunting. Do you wish to help me decide whom to choose? I have to decide to choose one of you as my new steward." "I am quite certain that Joseph would make a fine chief steward," Robin answered quickly. "He has been a faithful servant for, how long has it been? Nearly 4 years?" "It's been only 2, as you very well know," Joseph answered. "But Robin has been a servant much longer. It is true he knows very little about the house, its needs or its servants, but he would be a splendid chief steward nonetheless." "I am honored you hold me in such high esteem," Robin said modestly. "And although Joseph has never worked in the fields, and though he might have a difficult time buying a mule from the traders in town, I am certain he would be the best chief steward in the land." Robin and Joseph went on for quite some time, giving each other compliments that did not quite sound like compliments. "Enough!" cried the prince. "I've made my decision. Robin will be the new chief steward." Robin could scarcely believe his ears. Through all his years of service, he had the secret ambition to be chief steward of the prince's estate. Now his dream had come true. But Joseph is right. The master's voice interrupted Robin's pleasant thoughts. "You've never lived in the house and have much to learn. Come, I will show you around and explain your duties." At the kitchen, the prince stopped and said, "Whatever you wish to eat from the kitchen, it is yours. Whatever food or drink you wish to buy in preparation for my feast, you may buy." He showed Robin the garden in the central courtyard and said, "I give you all the flowers and plants to decorate the house and the lawns as you desire." He presented Robin before the servants and the guards and said, "You are in charge of them all." After showing Robin everything in his house, the prince said, "You will rule it all. I give it all into your hands as my chief steward." But the prince's jolly face became very serious. "You may never go into the west wing. That is forbidden to all servants. And your job is to make sure that no one else goes into the west wing either. You must guard it with your life." Robin took up his duties as chief steward with great energy. Fields and farmlands he knew well, and he quickly mastered the difficult jobs of managing the most stubborn household servants, of buying enough food and drink to satisfy everyone, but not so much that it spoiled, and of keeping track of how the prince's every penny was spent. The first feast he prepared as chief steward was declared by Lord Andrew of Bostwich the most imaginative feast ever given in the eastern provinces. Because he made wise purchases, Robin was able to save a great deal of the master's money. With what he saved, Robin had the broken stones of one of the towers repaired. He hired skilled workmen to carve cunning designs in the tall front door, and wise craftsmen to cast 2 majestic bronze pillars to set on either side of the entrance. One day, as Robin was hurrying down one of the halls, he saw the master's beautiful wife peering at him through the corner of the west wing. Through all of his years as a servant, Robin had seen the prince's wife only a few times, and only from a great distance. On this occasion, he was close enough to sense the sweet warmth of her perfume and to look into her eyes, which sparkled like the silver fish that dangled from the end of her long necklace. Robin stopped and stared. Her beauty was so startling that Robin had to gasp for his breath. The master's wife smiled and lowered her eyelids. Then, laughing loudly, she turned, and silk skirts rustling behind her, entered a room and closed the doors. After that day, Robin's heart was full of the beauty of his master's wife, and he found many reasons to walk past the west wing. One day, after looking all around to make sure he was not watched, Robin tiptoed up the main hallway of the west wing, listening intently at each door. Behind the third door, he recognized the voice of his master's wife. He could not understand her words, but he was enchanted by her smooth and soothing voice and captivated by her robust laughter. Some days later, Robin chanced to be walking through the central garden in the courtyard of the prince's home. As he stepped into the garden, he noticed the master's wife sitting on a stone bench, wearing a red dress. A fragile net-like scarf hung from her neck over her heart. When Robin went to her, she looked up and smiled. "I have been watching you," she said sweetly. "I sit at my window watching you through the lattice whenever you ride away. I have been watching for you too." Robin could hardly believe it was he who spoke. "I have even followed you through the streets of town where you go to buy wine. But I have dreamed of you." Robin felt he was dreaming even now. "The master is away today, isn't he?" Robin heard his voice ask the question, and he immediately wished he had said nothing. She laughed at his embarrassment. "Yes, bird hunting or something. Everyone went with him. There is no one in the house. No one at all." She strengthened the skirt of her dress. "I love red. It is a delight to the eyes, don't you think?" She laughed again. Before Robin had the chance to agree, his master's wife caught him by the hand. Her slender fingers held his wrist like chains. She whispered in his ear, "I came to the garden hoping to meet you, and now we are together. Let's go to my chambers. You've never been to my chambers, have you? I made special preparations today. My couch is spread with silk and linen coverings. The room smells of myrrh and cinnamon. Come with me." Robin tried to pull away. I've served my master for many years, and I've never disobeyed him. He's been generous and good to me. He's given all he has into my charge. I do not want to. He told me not. "But you want to, don't you?" she asked. Robin made a half-hearted effort to flee. Tightening her grip on his wrist, she asked, "Did not my master give all he has into your hands? Is it fair that he withheld me from you? He will not be home for many days. He will never know." Robin looked into her sparkling eyes, smiling dumbly like an ox. Robin followed her to her chambers in the west wing. The master's wife closed the door quietly behind them, turned, threw her arms around Robin's neck, and kissed him. Robin kissed her too. While they were still in their embrace, there was a pounding at the door and the thundering voice of the master. "Robin, are you in there?" Robin looked everywhere for a place to hide and finally jumped under the silk covering on the couch. It was a stupid place to hide. But before he could escape, the master's wife, laughing loudly, opened the door, and her husband, dressed in black, stormed in like a thundercloud. "What are you doing here?" he demanded of Robin. Robin rolled off the couch and stood up, holding the silk in front of him, as if it would protect him from the prince's wrath. Your wife, sir, she tempted me and led me in here," he said, trembling. "I told you not to come into the west wing. You are supposed to guard this wing. You are supposed to guard her. I gave you everything you could want. I withheld only my wife from you, and now this?" The prince's round, merry face was aflame with anger, his voice like a clap of thunder. "If you had stolen from me, I would understand, but this? You have no sense at all." Robin knelt before the prince, hoping for mercy. But the prince was not in a mood to forgive. "Curse you!" the prince thundered at his wife. Then to Robin he bellowed, "Curse you too! You will pay for this. You will pay dearly." The prince called for the guards, who seized Robin and led him to the garden in the central courtyard. Sweat moistened Robin's forehead as he sat watching the guards kindle a roaring fire. When the fire had burned down to flickering coals, the master appeared. "Take off your shirt," he commanded. As Robin stood and began to pull off his shirt, he noticed the prince was holding a whip made of twisted branches from a thorn tree. "Bend over and hold the bench," the prince ordered. 39 stinging blows fell on Robin's back. "Now, remove your boots," the prince ordered. Trembling like a leaf in the wind, Robin did as his master commanded. "Do you think you can walk on hot coals and not be burned?" the master asked. Robin stared and said nothing. "We shall see then. Walk across the coals." At first, Robin did not believe the prince was serious, but a glance at his master's eyes told him this was no joking matter. Feeling as if he were dreaming, Robin put a toe into a bed of hot coals and quickly pulled it back. "Walk! Walk!" the master shouted. 2 guards gained beside Robin, grasped his wrists like chains, and pulled him toward the fire. Stumbling, his feet pressed into the glowing coals. When he got to the other side, he sank to his knees. His feet were black and blistered, his mind scorched with pain. His master threw the boots at him. "Now, go! Never return to this house. You are cast out forever." Limping, Robin left the garden, stumbled through the carved door, and past the tall bronze pillars. He glanced behind him and saw 2 guards stationed at the door to prevent his return. As he walked down the lane away from the house, he thought the wind carried to his ear the sound of a woman's laughter. The moral is from Proverbs chapter 7, verses 24 through 26. "Keep from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Do not desire her beauty in your heart, nor let her catch you with her eyelids. For on account of a harlot one is reduced to a loaf of bread, and an adulteress hunts for the precious life." Thank you.